Hello and welcome back. So in the previous video we have seen what are graphs and two different types of graphs, namely the directed graphs and undirected graphs. So then there is a natural question. So if you want to apply any algorithm on them, so how do you store them in the computer? In other words, what are the data structures that are used in storing these graphs? We will mainly discuss three types of data structures, namely adjacency matrix representation, adjacency list representation, and the third one is edge list representation. So when we have more than one representation, then the natural question is which one to use. So which one to use will depend on what is the algorithm that you are trying to apply on these graphs and what exactly the computation that you want to do on these graphs. First we'll look at what these three data structures are all, and in the next video we will quickly see algorithms where in three different algorithms where in which we are going to see three different representations being used efficiently. So let's get started and try to understand what are the data structures that are used to store the graphs. There are mainly three ways of representing the graph. We'll just look at the so namely adjacency matrix, adjacency list, and just edge list. So let's just begin with the first one, which is the adjacency matrix representation of the graph. So we are given a graph with n number of vertices in it. We define the data structure to represent the edges in the graph is a Boolean matrix, n cross n matrix. So here, since it's a Boolean matrix, it will only keep track of true and false. The a of I comma j we are going to store true, indicating that I comma j is an edge in the graph. In other words, a of I comma j will be true if and only if I comma j is an edge in the graph. Let's look at an example of a directed graph. So this is an n cross n. So we go to let's say this is 0 comma 1th entry is 1, indicating that there is an entry from there is an edge from 0 to 1, right? So there is an edge from 0 to 1. 0 to 2 also there is an edge, so the 0 comma 2 is also 1. 0 to 3 there is no edge, so this is 0. 0 indicating that it's false, and 1 indicates that it's true, right? So 0 to 4 also there is no edge, so 0 comma 4 is 0. Similarly, so if you look at the edge 3, there is no outgoing edge from here, so all the entries in this here is going to be in this row is going to be 0. Similarly, when you look at the vertex 4, there are basically that two edges which are outgoing from it. This is going to 1, and so 1 is going to 3. So the 4 comma 1 and 4 comma 3 will be 1, so and the other entries in this row will be 0. So you can verify that a of I comma j will be 1 if and only if there is an edge from I to j. Similarly, in the case, before you go to the undirected graphs, since we are talking about simple graphs, so there are A is not related to itself, so you should know that the diagonal entries in this graph will be all 0. The same representation holds for the undirected graph, but for every edge here there will be two entries in the matrix. So when you say 0 is connected to 1, 0 comma 1 is also 1 and 1 comma 0 is also 1, right? So this relationship on the edges is a symmetric relationship, but this matrix that you get out of this adjacency matrix will be a symmetric matrix. Whenever A is connected to B, B is also going to be connected to A, so this matrix will be symmetric. So here also we say that since we are taking a simple graph, the diagonal entries of all the diagonal entries will always be 0 or it's false. So this is a very simple way of representing the graphs, but the only difference is that only problem with this representation is that it takes n square amount of space if you have to represent a graph with n vertices. So now it all depends on what is the value of m, right? So if m is order n square, then we obviously space n order n space to store all the m edges. But imagine a situation where the graph is sparse, that means that m is order n. So this matrix, in other words, the most of the entries in this graph will be 0, but we still need an order n square graph to represent this. A quick example could be if you just want to represent the let's say the Facebook network where individuals, people are the nodes, and if a person knows another person, there is an edge between them. So the number of users on Facebook is about 1 million. So if you want to have a adjacency matrix representation for it, so you need amount of space which is 10 to the power 9 into 10 to the power 9, which is 10 to the power 18. Even a supercomputer will not have that kind of memory, right? So a simple example could be that if you take a university where there are about 10,000 students, and if you want to maintain this relationship whether a person knows B, then using the adjacency matrix representation you need 10 to the power 4 into 10 to the power 4 table, which is 10 to the power 8, which cannot be stored on a normal computer. But what is known is that for the social media works, out of these 1 million people, you don't know most of them, right? So on average, what is known is that the number of people, the average number of friends per a person on any social media is about 300, right? So not more than 300. So which is a constant which is independent of the billion, right? So if you have to look at the university example that I started with, so even if there are 10,000 students, you probably know 3 to 5% of these students in the university. So the number of edges in the graph is about 500 into 10 to the power 4, which is 5 into 10 to the power 6, which should be manageable number, right? So when the graph is dense, this may be the one of the ways of representing, but when the graph is sparse, then we are using too much of space to store this graph. So ideally, if there are m edges, we should be using only order n space instead of order n square space. So in most of the application, this may not be the most space efficient way of storing the graph. So in order to overcome that difficulty, what we have is the adjacency list representation. Adjacency list representation is a array list where for each vertex we have a list, right? This will have the list of all vertices which are adjacent to this. For example, the list that is corresponding to 1 is connected to 2, 0 is connected to 1, and 0 is also 0 comma 1 is an edge, and 0 comma 2 is also an edge. So if you go to the list which is corresponding to 0, you see an entry 1 comma 2, right? Similarly, if you go to the vertex 1, from 1 comma 2 is an edge and 1 comma 3 is also an edge. So there is a list which will store 2 comma 3. Similarly, when you go to vertex 2, 2 is connected to 4, there is the list contains 4. There is no outgoing edge from vertex 3. That means that there is no outgoing edge from the vertex 3. The list that is corresponding to 3 is a null, right? An empty list. Similarly, 4 is connected to 1 as well as 3. So you have a list which contains 1 and 4. So you have an array list. So if you go to the ith location in this array, it will give you the set of all edges of the type I comma j. If I comma j is an edge in the graph, then if you go to v of I, j will be one of the elements in the list. Okay. So you see that for every entry in the edge here, there will be one node in the linked list that I am going to create. So the total amount of space that is required to represent the graph in this representation is order n plus m. So I have to create an array here which will take order n, and for every entry in the edge I have exactly one node in the linked list. So this is order n plus m. Exactly the same definition holds true for an undirected graph. But when you look at the edge 2, so it will have all the set of edges which are incident edges, which are all the edges, the vertex list for 2 will contain all the vertices which are neighbors of this, right? So if there is an edge, all the edges you consider which are outgoing from here. So for example, here is 2, 0, 1 comma 4 is connected to 2. So in the edge list which correspond to 2, there will be 0, 1 and 4. Okay. So notice that since the relationship is symmetric relationship here, for every edge there will be exactly 2 entries in the table. When I comma j is an edge in the graph, where j will be there in the list corresponding to I, and also I will be there in the list corresponding to j. So the amount of space that is required in this case will be n plus 2 into m. In terms of order, this will be order n plus n. The same representation can also be used to represent the weighted graph. If there is a weight associated with every edge, then instead of just the numbers in the node of a linked list, you can write down the weight of the edge there. Okay, so if I comma j the weight of the edge I comma j is w, then when you go to the edge list corresponding to I, in the linked list you see j, and there is another parameter there which is the weight of the edge. Similarly, in the case of adjacency matrix representation, if you want to represent the weighted graphs, so instead of declaring the adjacency matrix as a Boolean variable, so it will be declared as a float. So a of I comma j will give you the weight of the edge I comma j, right? So instead of Boolean matrix, it will be a floating point matrix. It will be a float which will store the real valued numbers, which are basically the weight of the edges. If there is no edge, then we will continue to store 0 there. So here also this is a good way of to represent, but if there are only 2 edges, but the number of vertices are still n, then you still have to use the array of length n to store that most of the entries are null there. Okay, so that's the one of the disadvantages here. So other simplest way to represent the graph is just the list of edges. You have a linked list of nodes. Each node will keep track of I comma j. If I comma j is an edge in the graph, in the linked list there will be a node which will store I comma j. If you have to represent a weighted graph, then there will be 3 entries in each node. One is I comma j, and another one is the weight of the edge. I and j will be integer values, and the weight will be a floating value. So quickly look at the summary of the 3 data structures that we discussed. We look at the adjacency matrix representation, which takes order n square space. Adjacency list will take order n plus m space, and adjacency so this should have been edge list. Edge list will take order m space. Okay, so edge list is the most efficient way of representing the graph. But as mentioned earlier, so which representation do we use will actually depend on so what is that we want to do on the graph, what is algorithm that we are going to apply on this graph. So just to look at the data structure for it, if you just want to look at the adjacency list representation, so what you have is that you create a linked list where there is an X pointer, and what you're going to store is for this particular node, what is the value of I, right? So there is an array list which corresponds to, which will store all the adjacent vertices in this node. Similarly, when you look at the edge list, this is not an array list, so I comma j will be a node in the edge list if and only if I comma j is an edge in the graph. We can quickly look at a code to represent generate a random graph. Here I am trying to generate a random graph which has n number of vertices in it, and m is the number of edges that I am going to create. So what it does is that it creates a random j and tries to add an edge I comma j in the graph. So I have 3 representations. One is a of I comma j is the adjacency matrix representation. List is the edge list representation. The new edge will add create a new node with j as the value of the node, and it adds into the beginning of the list I. Edge list is the new edge list will create a new node and sets I comma j as the parameters there, indicating that I comma j is an edge which has to be added to the edge list. So when I want to add an edge I comma j, in the case of adjacency matrix representation, what I have to just, if this edge is already not there, we don't allow duplicate edges in the graph, so I have to check whether this edge is already there. If it is not there, Then in the case of adjacency matrix, I have to just set the value as true. In the case of adjacency list representation, I create a node and add it to the beginning of the list. In the case of edge list representation, I again create a node, but in this case I have to the edge will have each node in the linked list will have I comma j has to be set, right? So if you look at the structure of it, in the edge list representation we had to store both I and j, but in the case of adjacency list representation, there is an array list, so the starting point is already v of I, so you have to store which is the vertex which is adjacent to this. So this code will generate a random graph and store it in 3 different representations that we have. So one quick exercise could be, in the last class we have defined what is known as a degree of a node, and so using these 3 representations you can try to compute degree of each node and probably compute the sum of degree of every node and see whether you get twice into the number of elements, number of edges in the graph. In some cases, the algorithm might use adjacency list representation, but the graph that is given to you may be adjacency matrix representation. So you can always convert from one representation to the other representation. For example, if you look at if you are given adjacency matrix representation, but your algorithm wants a adjacency list representation, so you can create an adjacency list by going through each entry in the matrix. If it is 0, you ignore it. If it's 1, then you add that particular node into the linked list that you are creating. So since we have to look at every node in the graph, every entry in the adjacency matrix representation, this would take order and square space. Similarly, if you want to go from adjacency list to edge list, so you go through the adjacency list. If it's a null, then you don't have to do anything. Otherwise, you just concatenate all of them and create a edge list. So this conversion will take order n plus m because you have to go through the edge list representation. But if you want to go from edge list to, let's say, adjacency list representation, then go through this edge list. Each node in the linked list will have a I comma j. So in that case, you go to the vertex list corresponding to I, then create a linked list and store j there and add it to the adjacency list representation. So this will take order m time. So similarly, if you want to go back to an adjacency matrix representation from the edge list representation, what you can do is that you create a adjacency matrix. Initially, I will assume that all the entries there will be false. So you go through every node in the adjacency list and make a true entry there, right? So similarly, you can do from adjacency matrix to edge list representation. If you want to, so what you notice from this diagram is that if you want to convert from a representation A to anything, the time that is required to for this conversion is exactly equal to the space that is amount of space that is required to store this particular data structure. So when you want to convert from A to B, what matters is the amount, how have you stored the representation in A. That's what matters. If you can just verify through this diagram. So what I have written here is the amount of space, the amount of time that it takes to convert from one representation to other representation. Just to quickly summarize, so we have seen 3 types of data structures that can be used to store graphs, namely adjacency matrix representation, adjacency list representation, and edge list representation. As mentioned earlier, so when do we use these data structures will depend on what exactly do you want to do on these graphs. Okay, so in the next class, next video, we'll define what is known as a shortest path problem, and we'll talk about 3 different algorithms to compute the shortest paths, and each of them, one of them will use adjacency matrix representation, the other one will use adjacency list representation, and we will also show you a third one which will just use the edge list representation, right? So so after that we will come back to another problem called minimum spanning tree. Okay, it's time to take a break and come back to the next video.